Hello guys, welcome to this introduction to object-oriented programming. In this very video, I'm going to focus on exposing you to the concept of object-oriented programming, or OOP for short. I have been doing stuffs like this for quite some time now, except that my channel had some issues last month. But notwithstanding, this tutorial is basically for anyone who want to understand the concept of object-oriented programming, or anyone who wants to prepare for an interview, or anyone who wants to sit for an exam that has to involve object-oriented programming. So without wasting much time, let's get started. The first thing I want us to talk about is what is object-oriented programming, or OOP. OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. It is a software design methodology, a path to design programs using objects and classes. So object-oriented programming is focusing on using objects and classes to actually make real-life objects or real-life programs instead of following a static paradigm. This is not the only approach to programming. Of course, we have procedural programming and we have functional programming. I may take care of that later in this channel, but for the moment I am focusing on the concept of OOP. OOP is also a computer programming model that organizes software design around data and objects rather than functions and logic. With object-oriented programming, you divide a program into distinct layers and you put them into classes. Then after you build those classes, then you can now begin to create real life objects from them. Object can be anything you can see. It can be an abstract entity, maybe love, or maybe something that you are not really seeing but you can feel the impact. An object can be it can be me, it can be you, it can be anything. It can be cup, it can be pen. Anything at all you can focus on can be seen as an object. So let's see how object-oriented programming actually works. Object-oriented programming focus on using classes, and within these classes you can define everything you want, like the names of the object, the properties. You can define methods that should actually qualify these properties within the class. So that class can now serve as a blueprint, like a master plan of a building. Then later on, when you start creating the objects, then you can now start giving them names. You can now set the names of different objects the way you want, and the class will still maintain itself. Let's still see another example or another instance of object-oriented programming. In this case, we have a class here defined called car. Then we can now use this class here as a blueprint. We follow the architecture of this class and we begin to make other classes from, or other objects from this class. Then we can make a green car. The type can be Ford. We can make the fueling to be gasoline based on the properties that were defined in this class. We can use that same class to get another object. The color will be red. It will be a Toyota product, and it will be using electricity to be able to power itself. Then from this same class again, we can get another car which will be blue, which will be a product of Volkswagen, maybe Golf, and it will be using diesel. Now these three implementations from this class called car has nothing to do with this place or this car that is defined up there. Each one of them are now assuming different values in different forms. So immediately after this video, we are going to take some of these things like classes, objects, inheritance and the likes, then we are going to talk about them. And later in the course, we are going to now start seeing them using different programming approaches. Then we can start making use of Java, PHP, Python, JavaScript, PyScript, and the host of them. Earlier I mentioned that aside this object-oriented approach, we have something called the procedural-oriented programming, called POP, or we have the functional-oriented programming as well. There are certain things that distinguish object-oriented programming from other, you know. A good one of them is, in terms of procedural programming, you are defining each of the functions exactly where you need them, meaning that in this place, function 1, if I decide to change anything, it's going to cause a catastrophic error in other parts of the code. The same thing to this function here. So meaning that if I need one function to be repeated anywhere, then I have to copy it and paste it a couple of times, that for as long as I'm going to need it. So in the future, if there's need for me to change anything, it becomes very hard, because if I'm changing it for function 1, then I have to change it for function 2 to function 3, just like that. But in the case of object oriented programming, I just define a class. The class has each of these functions defined into different objects, or into different subclasses, into different methods. Then I begin to create instances of them, and they can all take different methods. So I want to believe you have a good understanding of what object oriented programming is all about. So in the next video, I'm going to be sharing with you the benefits of using this means of programming to actually build softwares, and then we'll continue in the course. Thanks for watching.